Welcome to Hustle and Flow with Heather Hubbard, episode 129. Hi, I'm Heather Hubbard, and I was a litigator, partner, and practice group leader at an AmLaw 200 firm. I know what it takes to rise to the top. I also know all too well the toll it can take on your personal life. So how do you shine bright without burning out? How do you embrace your ambition without selling your soul? You're listening to the Hustle and Flow podcast. Welcome back. I am your host, Heather Hubbard. Thank you so much for joining me. Today, I'm sharing my unCorporate Manifesto. So I was inspired to do this episode based on two things. The first is I did a summer IGTV roadshow. So at the very beginning, end of July, beginning of August, instead of releasing a podcast episode that week, because we were on summer break, I went to Instagram land and I recorded an IGTV every single day. And one of the, I guess we'll call them episodes of IGTV was called Authenticity. And so it was a conversation that I had there. A lot of people, they were messaging me, they were responding to that video, and it struck a chord. It was something I had on my mind. Others seemed to resonate with that concept. And then second, 2 weeks ago, I interviewed Estelle Winsett, and we did an episode on corporate fashion. I believe that was episode 127. And again, we started talking about this concept of authenticity. How do you bring yourself to the table when you're in a professional environment? And it really got me thinking even more. So this has all just kind of happened within the last few weeks, probably, I guess, a month if we're really looking at it, but it has stuck with me. And I had this idea that I would just come on and share my unCorporate Manifesto. Okay, so here's the thing. A lot of attorneys or other professionals who have left corporate America, they despise corporate America. And they, one, encourage people not to go into corporate America. And two, for those that are in it, they encourage them to get out as fast as they can. I'm not like that. I was actually doing an interview, and it should be out now, with Akoma Moronu in one of our bonus Fearless Leader podcasts. And we were both talking about this concept of how big law actually suited us quite well. Corporate America actually suits our personalities quite well. Being an entrepreneur also suits our personalities. So for me, I totally get the draw to being an entrepreneur and doing a small business. I mean, that's where I am right now. But I also totally get the draw of corporate America. I genuinely love both. But there are parts of corporate America that drive me crazy. And for those who despise corporate America because they left it and they encourage others to leave it as soon as they can, I believe that their real issue and what they're really trying to get people away from is exactly the things that I dislike about corporate America. But I would like to believe, I could be wrong, that those things, they've not jaded me. So I'm not disillusioned. I don't think that that's all of corporate America. I think it's one piece, and it's the piece that runs women and minorities out. And it's the piece that we really need to look at and consider. All right. So I know I'm not really saying a lot right now. Let's unpack this. All right. So I need to go back a little bit to some of what I actually covered in that IGTV episode on authenticity. And that's really this concept that many of us, depending on how long you've been a professional, in many ways, we have forgotten who we really are. So it's hard to show up in an authentic way if you've lost touch with who you are at your core. So over time, in order to be successful in a professional environment, there are all kinds of rules. I was even sharing some of those in the episode I did with Estelle, where I was talking about the on-campus interviews, what the law school taught us, how you need to appear, what you need to look like, always showing up, being worried about, whether or not you're going to be accepted in this like white shoe environment. And so you might show up in a little bit more of a stuffy way than you would otherwise, right? You're not as relaxed. You're a little bit more guarded. You stand maybe a little bit straighter. You talk perhaps a little bit more proper. My husband always laughs when he hears me on the phone or somewhere. He's like, what voice is that? And I'm like, I don't know. But it's just, right? It's the professional voice in us. And often as a woman, it's so hard to get credibility, especially as a young woman, that we try to show up in ways that makes us appear older, more professional, right? So maybe we wear clothes to try to minimize that we are a woman so that like people can stay focused. Or maybe it's that we're trying to dress in a certain way so that we blend in and we are seen as, it's fitting in. This is the concept. And that is the environment. The professional environment is a bit uptight and proper. We'll just say that. On the other hand, because corporate America, although this may be all of America, but because corporate America, especially the higher up you get with executives, those who are making all the money, those who are in charge, the managers, the leaders, because the vast majority of them are white men, and it definitely is this very, macho environment, we also blend in that way, right? Which is not uptight. In many ways, I know I certainly did this, and depending on your age, my guess is you did as well. You had to go along with their jokes and what they were saying, because as soon as you try to be too prim, too proper, you say that's unacceptable, you're going to be shut out of conversations and opportunities. And so as a smart woman, you know that, and you want to be in the room. You want to be given the opportunities. So in many ways, you let things slide, you let things go. You might even participate in order to be seen as one of the guys so that you can still get in those rooms. You want the access, right? You want the opportunities. And so it's this really weird juxtaposition where on the one hand, you are showing up super professional, with all of your blacks and your grays and, showing up prim and proper. And then on the other hand, you might be slightly or fully, depending on your personality, violating your own values, consciously or unconsciously, in order to really fit in and be accepted with, the very masculine crowd. And so somewhere along the way, you kind of forget who you are. Not to mention you're working nonstop, right? You're busy. You're trying to climb the corporate ladder, and everything around you, right? Even the environment, everything is just so masculine. Walk into any law firm or the vast majority of companies and corporations, and it's just very, very masculine. From the carpet to the cubicles, to the wallpaper, to the way that the offices are set up. There's now kind of like two main styles. You've got that dark mahogany color, looks a little bit more traditional, more Southern. And now we've got the new, more modern, where things are a lot more white. There's more marble. But in both environments, they're still pretty stale and pretty masculine. And so you just show up in a different way, and you're busy all the time. You start to lose your hobbies. You don't necessarily have creative outlets. And over time, it's like, well, who am I? Like, I'm trying to fit in. I'm trying to belong. And everyone says, try to be more authentic, show up as your true self. Estelle was talking about, bringing your femininity, feeling more comfortable with that. And what I was sharing in the IGTV is, I don't really know. I don't always know what my full self would look like, what my true authentic self would look like, because in many ways, I feel like I have kind of become this, professional version of myself that I have been developing for so long. And I will tell you, walking out of the professional space, leaving big law definitely opened my eyes to a whole new world. And it's been allowing me to be more creative and explore more of who I am. But it's still a work in process. Like, it's really hard to to like peel back this identity that you have taken on that you really did to fit in more than that's who you are. So I'm still in the process of this. And the other thing that I shared, which I think is, again, part of our issues with retention and promotion, is that we've almost become watered down versions of ourselves. One, because we think that's the way we effectuate change, but two, because we don't want to get hurt. So in many ways, we are loud, we are bold, and others may describe us, right, as being really assertive, as always speaking our minds, really pushing the envelope. When deep down, we know we have so much more to say, and we could be so much louder and we could be so much bolder, but we're pushing the envelope, but only to the point where we feel like there will be no retribution. Like, we're not fully showing up and saying what we want to say. And we are adopting this mindset that change takes time, and people aren't ready, and people aren't willing, and people aren't open to the change. So we have to get buy-in, right? We have a lot of conversations around buy-in. How do we get buy-in? And people will say, well, that's never been done before, or they're not really that open to that. And we know this is true. Every time I talk to a law firm or I'm talking to a company, these are the conversations that are had. Like, I think that's amazing. We should do that. But I got to go sell it to these guys, and here are all of the things that they're going to say about that. And so because we want promotions, we want to have the ear of, management and leaders, we tell ourselves that we can make a change, but we've got to make it really slow, right? And really small. And so, this is why the numbers are barely budging. This is why, despite the fact that women have been graduating from law schools at 50% since 1991, we still are not projected to have 30% women equity partners until 2181. It's insane. And I think part of it's because we have adopted this mindset of, well, we can only do so much, right? Like, we can't change it all at once. And this is just what we have to do in order to still keep our jobs and whatever else. And so again, we're told we're being one thing when the truth is we are showing up as a watered down version of ourselves because we don't know what will happen if we fully show up as ourselves. Will we be run off? Will we be kicked out? Will we ruin our reputation? And so it's all of these things, right? It's all of this corporate masculinity where we're showing up and dressing a certain way, where we might be violating our values in order to have opportunities and to be able to fit in. And we're not fully pushing the envelope or saying what we really want to say because we're concerned about fitting in. And in many ways, fitting in corporate America means succeeding. But here's the thing with that. The more we try to play the game, the more we try to fit in, the more we try to show up in a way that others can accept us. Like, it's enough that it makes them feel a little uncomfortable, but not so much so that they, push us out. In many ways, that truly is why women are leaving. That is why minorities are leaving. Yes, there are some true discriminatory practices. There is a lot of unconscious bias. But when when anyone other than a white man, and here's the thing, there are plenty of white men who don't actually fit that toxic masculinity environment either. I have so many men reach out to me to say, like, I get I'm not your ideal client, but I too feel the same way. I don't actually fit in that environment, and I'm expected to fit in it, because I look like them. So this isn't just women. This isn't just minorities, but it's this concept of it's what they call covering. You have to show up as someone other than your true self in order to fit in and be accepted. And that is why people leave in droves, because they can't be themselves. And it eats away at your soul. And this is why people aren't happy, right? And they're like, even if I am getting opportunities, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel aligned. And this is why you can see really successful women really successful minorities still exit out of firms or the profession as a whole, and this applies to other industries as well. They exit out because it's not worth it. It's not worth it. Even assuming they get past the bias, even assuming they get the opportunities, they've got the business, they're making good money, they're getting the opportunities, it is still sucking the life out of their soul because it's not who they really are. They're not able to show up the way they really want to show up. They're having to show up as a watered down version of themselves. And when you show up in an environment like that day in and day out, it wears on you. And you start to wake up with that knot in your stomach. You show up to meetings and you start to have that knot in your throat. Your body literally sends you signals that you are not comfortable in the situation anymore. And when you get to that point, I've found that that's actually when most people make their exit out because it just becomes too much. And it's hard to explain because how do you say, I just don't like this? And so we think, well, I'm just not cut out for the profession. Right? Like we're like, maybe I just don't like being a lawyer, or maybe I don't like being an executive. Maybe what I really want to do is be at home with my kids, or maybe what I really want to do is open this cupcake shop. When I don't think that's the issue. I think the issue is this masculine corporate environment. It sucks. Like it just sucks. And it's like, if I'm going to spend the rest of my life doing this, like why? Like why am I doing this? And so in many ways, I think one, men, if you're listening, please, 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 if you're wanting to make a change and you do believe in equality, please remember that you're not setting the standard, right? This relates like a lot to privilege. We could get into a whole other conversation on this. If you need things to look and feel and be a certain way for you to feel comfortable and succeed, and you're saying others who want to come into this environment and fit in are welcome to be here, that's not equality. That's a problem. It's kind of like, and if you're listening, I'm saying this with love. I know you didn't mean it, so I'm not trying to call you out. I'm not going to say your name. But I did have a gentleman share that the life and law planner was the color was a little too much. The green was a little too much. And he shared that, it was the brightest thing that he owns, and it was embarrassing for him to get out in front of clients. Now, if you have the planner or you've seen the planner, I mean, we're not talking it's not really that bright. It's actually, I would call it a masculine green. It's more of like a hunter green, a forest green. It does have some gold on it. But here's the thing, even if it was, it was bright, if the standard needs to be something that looks masculine, right? If offices need to be masculine, if planners need to be masculine, if everything has to be masculine as the starting point, and this is what, is considered professional, that's the problem. Why is your way the right way? We will never be able to retain and promote women and minorities and others who do not fit into this drab, boring, masculine environment, except for when we're then joking and talking about women or whatever else. If it's all about suiting your needs and we have to fit in, it's never going to work. It's never going to fly. So here's what my unCorporate manifesto is all about. My unCorporate manifesto is about how do we truly create environments where everyone can thrive. And to me, that means you have to have creativity. You have to be able to own a culture, because I personally believe that if every single company culture is true assimilation, where, anyone and everyone and all thoughts are welcome, you kind of lose your identity in and of itself. And it's hard for people to go find what they're truly aligned with. So in the same way, when you're marketing, I teach this with business development, in the same way that you want to be bold in yourself so that you can attract the people who like you to come to you, because scarcity is not real. There are plenty of people who need us. And so what we want to do is help people get aligned with the people that's going to best help them. Everybody wins at the end of the day when we're all working with who we want to work with. So if you can create a culture that is very unique, but you are very bold and honest about what that is, and in my opinion, that's what allows the right employees to find you, because they know exactly what you stand for and what your environment's going to look like. If it's truly everyone fits in here, then you probably are right back to that same drab masculine concept in that everything is watered down. So to me, where I would love to see change, and I do think we can start to do it now, right? So some of it is, if you leave, going to create it on your own. But if you stay in corporate America, finding ways to start implementing it and promoting it. So the first thing that you want to do is start looking around and asking, what is routine and mundane? What is routine and mundane around here? So look around your office. I'm sure everyone has like standard issue stuff, right? So that's probably pretty mundane and pretty routine, even if you have the modern style, right? Even if you have everyone can see in your office, or it's the open, cubicle concept. Whatever it is, my guess is there's not a lot of variety going on. So just look around. What is routine? What is mundane? Look at your file folders. Are they all brown? I bet they are. Look around at what's hanging on everybody's walls. Does everybody have like similar pictures hanging up? Go into your hallways. What's hanging up? What do you have in your office, right? Most offices look pretty similar. And then look around at what people are wearing. I mean, does everybody dress kind of a certain way? And are there differences based on what you're doing, right? So can the staff dress more exciting or more interesting than, the attorneys or the executives? What do meetings look like? Anytime you have gatherings, how are those run? What do they look like, right? Are they routine? Are they mundane? Are they boring? Is it the same old, same old, same old, same old? Look at your swag. Look at your marketing. Is it really exciting, or does it look just like everybody else's? And here's the thing. Sometimes you might even have some colors, right? You might be kind of out there, but it still feels pretty masculine. I mean, let me just tell you. So think of stock photography. And it's one of the things with my website, like I've always, with my website and my social media, I've always wanted to be more of a lifestyle brand, because I personally, just me, Heather, I am so sick and tired of seeing all of these professional, boring, masculine, corporate stock photography images and ads. And I'm so bored with it. It doesn't speak to me at all. And so then I want you to go to the extreme. I want you to imagine what your office would be like and how people would act if every single office you got to buy your furniture from wherever you wanted, right? So just like houses, depending on where you live, just how houses can be unique. Like imagine every single office, like one, you've got like mod furniture. Literally imagine, okay, for those of you that know design, you're going to be like, Heather, please. I don't even know how to describe this, but from like the 60s, a little bit of the 70s, the circular seats, that like hang from the ceiling. What if like you walk into someone's office and there's one of those, or you walk into someone's office and there's a chandelier hanging, like that's their light, right? It's not the fluorescent, it's like this chandelier. Imagine if every single person's office was a totally different color. Imagine if every office was bright orange, bright yellow, bright red. Imagine if the cubicles had like murals, right? Like if it was like graffiti and street art. Imagine if your file folders were, neon pink and yellow, and people were allowed to bring their animals to the office. You've got a peacock in one office and a miniature pony in another, right? Like it's a circus. It is insane. Now, I'm not actually advocating for that, but don't you think your office would be very different? Not just environmentally. Don't you think that the way people showed up and did their work would be different? Don't you think your meetings would be run differently? Don't you think that like the way you approached your cases would be different? Our environments impact us in so many ways. It impacts the way we think. It impacts our emotions. It impacts so much, which is why so many people feel like they're in a prison when they show up to corporations. Not just in the physical environment, but in the way that everything is run and the way conversations happen. So I have to say, if you have not checked this out, I want you to, and I'm going to we'll try to put a link in the show notes. The first time that I saw the corporate headquarters of Kendra Scott in Austin, Texas, I was blown away, and I had so many different thoughts. So if you look at the photos, it is the most gorgeous place I have ever seen. Gorgeous. And it is going to demonstrate for you how a typical, I'm putting in quotation marks, modern law firm or company space is still super masculine. When you then see what it looks like when women designed it, and she made sure that she wanted women doing the installations, because so much of interior design, especially corporate design and installations, it's all by men. And she really wanted, women, local women, to be involved in every single aspect. And the colors are amazing. The light fixtures are amazing. It reminds me of going into like a really cool restaurant, maybe a hotel. But there's a restaurant here in town in Nashville called St. Neho, and it's really good. But one of my favorite things about that place is they have this one room that has wallpaper, and the wallpaper is velvet skulls. And I'm really into texture. I love that wallpaper. Imagine if you walked into an office that truly looked like artwork, or that it had amazing things like that, like skull wallpaper that's velvet. Or it could be like going in a spa, because here's the thing, RBG, she says, when they are like, how many women can be on the Supreme Court? She was like, well, why not 9? Same concept. Like, once you look at Kendra's thing, you're going to say, whoa, that's super feminine. And it is. It totally is. But if we're talking about extremes, if we're going to let the pendulum swing way the other way, I would be really curious how men would feel to show up in a job that looked and felt that way every day. And they're probably going to say they don't like it. To which I say, we don't like it either. You're choosing now, and we have to show up and fit in your environment. So in the same way that you don't want to show up and fit in ours, let's find a way to actually negotiate and come up with a plan that actually works. And here's the thing. I know women who have been involved in designs of offices, but look, you're still holding back. I know you are. You're still showing up with that watered down version of yourself because you're pushing the envelope just to the point where the guys aren't going to completely freak out. And this is where I think we have to be more bold. We have to be willing to say, no, like, this is what I'm going to do. And if that means starting in your own office, I want you to start shaking things up. If that means your own clothes, I want you to start shaking things up. If you run a committee, if you're on a committee, if you have the opportunity to be in meetings, I want you to start shaking things up. And you may not even know what that looks like at first if you truly don't remember who you are and what you want. But you can look at others and get ideas. You can look at corporate offices like Kendra Scott and get ideas. You can look at, and here's the thing, it's not just like, because sometimes we think of like Google and those, that are in Silicon Valley, like the people who are considered really innovative and interesting, and they've got, bean bags and pool tables. That's still masculine. It's just younger frat guys. Okay. So because we've not really seen too much of what, feminine environments can look like, we kind of have to create it on our own. We can go try to pick and choose some things, but keep in mind, you may not be able to find it. You can look at Spanx with Sarah Blakely. Look at, again, you're not going to have a lot of options, but look at these women who have businesses and say, how are they running things differently? And this is where you can play. So maybe you really shake things up, like I said, with your wardrobe or with your office or the way that you are leading meetings, or making suggestions on swag or paintings or anything else like that. Anything that is going on in your environment to say, I think this would be great. And when you get the pushback of, oh, well, I don't know that some of the guys are going to like that, that's where I'd love for you to be a little bit more bold and brave and say, so what? So what? Here's the thing. You're going to leave anyway. You're totally going to leave anyway. Like, odds are you're going to leave anyway. So why not go ahead and speak up? By the way, like, I just really don't think you're going to get fired over this. But like, we create these stories in our head. But go ahead and push it. Push it beyond where you think they're comfortable and see what happens. And share with them exactly what I'm saying. Give them the example of, look, we are totally catering to this male, like white male corporate environment. And we're saying, yeah, bring your whole self, come be authentic, but we need it to look the way we need it to look. And we, need everyone to act the way we need them to act, but you can kind of be authentic. Say, well, okay, here's what it would look like if I were asking you to fully make me feel comfortable, and then show them pictures of, this is what I want our office to look like, and this is the way I want to run our meetings. That would be pushing it too far. That would be giving me exactly what you're giving yourselves right now. Have the conversations. They may not agree with you. They may push back, but what's the worst that can happen? I think if we want to take back corporate America, if we want to take back this masculine environment, we have to be willing to push boundaries on things that we think are as simple as decor. But in some ways that may not be as scary, as bigger things like, hey, can we just get paid the same? Or can we get the same opportunities? That would be nice. But start where you can. So this is my uncorporate manifesto. I don't think we talk about it too much in many ways because I think it just seems silly. And others just because I don't think many people stop and really consider just how masculine every single aspect of corporate America is. And so I think that if others could start to come in and bring their personality and their touches and their bold colors and perhaps the chandeliers and whatever else, it really could shake up what things look like. And it won't be routine and it won't be mundane. And it might even bring some enjoyment and renewed spirit to the work you're doing. Because I believe that you are cut out for the profession. I believe that you are cut out for big law if that's where you want to be. I believe that you can be cut out for corporate America if that's where you want to be. It's not that you can't cut it. It's just that right now it's blah. It's drab. It's not very exciting. So, test it out. Brighten it up. Push boundaries. Push back. Make it less corporate. Make it more you. And you might find that not only do you belong there more and want to be there more, but others do as well. And if you are the kind of person who is like, you know what, I actually want to leave corporate America and want to start something new, you might just find that the 2020 experience is for you. Or if you're in corporate America and you really want to change some things, you want to start some initiatives, you want to push in ways that you have never seen others push before, but you want to be strategic and smart about it and be able to overcome those fears, the 2020 experience might be for you too. We are bringing together 32 amazing women who are already very successful. This is not just for lawyers. It is for any ambitious woman who is really looking to play bigger in their lives and in their careers and have amazing leaders, facilitators, and other women in the room to help you figure out what that looks like for you. Go ahead and get your application in. We have special pricing and bonuses that are only good through the end of the month. So if you want to qualify for that, you at least need to have your application in by the end of the month. So August 31 is your deadline to do that. Go ahead and get it in. We are really working with visionary change makers. We are working with doers who want to shake things up. So if you are one of those trailblazers who also believes in this concept of uncorporate America, this might be just the group for you. You can check it out at 2020mastermindexperience.com. For show notes, downloads, and other free resources, and to keep the conversation going, head on over to hustleandflowpodcast.com. See you there.